Hey everyone, thank you for joining me. So today I have the cold steel Voyager in the Tanto style blade version. Now they have quite a few different versions of this blade, and this knife was sent in by a supporter of the channel, so I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Matthew. Now he did send in another one with the Voyager blade, so we have this here, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but there is some slight modifications already to the original scales. But this will be a second video since I don't want this video to be too long. So more on this in the second video. So this will be kind of a two-part series, I guess. But we will start with the Tanto first. So really quick, we'll throw the specs up on screen, and then we'll just dive right into it. So we have AUS 10A steel in the Tanto style, with a nice hollow grind here, and then a nice flat grind at the Tanto tip. The really nice stone wash. We have dual thumb studs, Grivex scales that have recessed liners, but more on that in just a second. But it's got a really cool triangular texture, very grippy. The famous triad lock, the lanyard hole, then a non-deep carry pocket clip. I believe it does come with another one so you can reverse it for left-hand carry. Now what I'll be doing to this blade, and to the other blade as well, is I'm going to be using some peel ply G10. This is a pretty interesting material because it's G10, but as you can see here, as you start peeling away, you get a nice rough texture. So basically I'm going to have to create the scales based off of the originals, transfer it over, and then when I'm finished I'll be able to peel this back and then have a nice textured G10. Matthew was actually the one who helped me find this material because I couldn't find it for the longest time. And thanks to Matthew, I can actually start ordering this and providing this on customer scales or knives of my own. So I'll be using the OD green on the Tanto, and then for the Voyager, I'm going to be using the black version. Just a little dusty, but that's what's going to be happening to these blades. Really interested to use these materials. Very anxious. So the Voyager style blade is actually going to get a slight modification, but again, more on that on the second video. So we're going to start simple with the Tanto. So let's take this thing apart and then see what we're dealing with on the inside. Alright, so here it is all taken apart, and I've noticed there are some slight differences from other cold steels, other than the liners. Now I know what you're probably thinking, Knathan doesn't do recessed liners, but Matthew and I figured out a way to kind of go our ways about it. So I won't really be recessing into the new scales. I'm actually just going to be building over the liners. So it's just going to be a slight gap floating over the liners. And we figured out a way around the backspacer and then the lock bar itself. So I'm actually going to remove some material, giving it that rock pattern texture and kind of angling it down, meeting the liners. Therefore we won't have to have that really strange gap in between this and the backspacer. And speaking of backspacer, I'm actually going to be recreating a carbon fiber one and a brass one. The liners are actually aluminum, so that really surprised me since I've never really seen this before on a knife. But that does make it insanely lighter, which was really interesting to find that out, but also really neat. But other than that, everything is about the same. You got your stop pins and other pins to hold everything in place. Now that it's all taken apart, let's get into customizing it. Alright, so the custom work is all finished. Now here are the P.1 G10 scales. As you guys can see, super happy with the outcome. Now I did coat these in tung oil since they were just kind of had a dry look to them, and I think it just needed it. It definitely enhanced it, as you guys saw in the video. Definitely brought out the black, just made it a lot deeper. Now keep in mind this is the 1/8 inch thick peel ply, and this was definitely a kind of a test run because Matthew and I wanted to see how the 1/8 inch thick would look on the knife, since the stop pins are actually protruding out just a little bit above the scales. So I'll give you guys a closer look once I assemble the blade. But the lock bar came out really good with the rock pattern texture. Really happy with how this thing turned out. And again, it's just one of my favorite textures because of, well, you guys can see what it's doing. It just looks really, really cool. And I actually did the same rock pattern texture on the G10 carbon fiber backspacer. You see that it's there just to match the lock bar. And I have the slit for the tension bar, and then also the hole for the pin, just to have that strength so it doesn't break. So basically I just copied the old one, and that turned out really, really good. It functions, it works. And since the lock bar is just a little bit higher than the liners, which Matthew and I knew was going to be the issue, I decided to bring the backspacer a little bit higher as well. And again, I'll show you guys that when I have it all assembled. So we just decided to bring the new scales down to the liners, since we will be doing the Vaquero blade slightly different, since I modified the actual liners and the scales themselves. But that'll be in a different video, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And that's pretty much all I did for this knife. Now keep in mind I did make a 3/16 peel ply scale out of the green, or the odd green, so definitely a little bit thicker. See, there we go. Extremely happy with how these turned out as well. And I'll also be installing this onto the blade after we do the black scales first. That way you can see both versions. So with that being said, let's put this thing together and see what it looks like. Alright, so here it is all put together, and as you guys can see, it's a very simple modification, but if you do take a close look at it, you'll notice first of all that it's not the GrivX scales, and the peel ply G10 scales are obviously what stand out about it. So it's definitely a very unique Voyager now. One thing I liked about the thinner peel ply is that I didn't have to countersink it like I did for the 3/16 material. And as I mentioned before, the stop pins here are protruding out just a little bit above the scales, but to be honest, they honestly don't even get in the way of handling the knife. But the function is awesome. No blade play, this thing is solid. And then here is a close-up of the rock pattern texture on the lock bar that goes into the backspacer. So again, just to have a consistent flow. And yeah, now that the liners are exposed, honestly, it kind of looks like that's just the way it came. One thing I wanted to point out was in some of the areas, since I did bring these scales down to the liner level, so Matthew and I didn't want the nub or the bottom of the blade to be sticking out. So as you guys can see, I left just a little bit of material. So right there, just a little bit of material extended, so that when you get the side profile view of the scales or the knife itself, you do not see that nub. And then it also keeps your finger from hitting it, since you're going to be hitting the scales first. So that was one thing I had to look out for. And then another area where I didn't want to see any gap was the lock bar. So if you look down, it's kind of hard to get it at this angle, but there it is. You can see that gap there. If I would have met these scales up to this to the liners, sorry, then you would have seen that gap. So again, left just a little bit of material where the thumb cutout goes, just to hide that little gap. So it just looks nice and neat from the side profile. So again, just a couple things I had to look out for. We obviously eliminated the lanyard hole and then the left side carry for the pocket clip. So show side scale is very neat and clean. And then you have the pocket clip side here. And since we have the black scales on, let's go back into the shop, and I'm actually going to be peeling the little protective layer over the green peel ply here, just so you guys can see the experience. Especially that was my first time experiencing peeling off the peel ply. So here is the video footage of that. Alright guys, so the moment of truth. We're going to peel off the peel ply for the green version, since we already did the black one. So I got the tabs ready back here. So all finished up, as you guys can see. Put some tongue oil to darken the G10 layer underneath. And let's do it. So this is my first time working with this stuff, as I mentioned before. But let's see what happens. So the stuff is on there actually pretty good. It's a little challenging. Tough stuff. But okay. So it seems like the thinner parts are hard to get, but I can pick those off with a flathead. But the rest should come off fairly simple. Sounds like duct tape. Pretty interesting stuff. So there's the back side of it. It's actually really pretty. But here is the finished product. So you got that nice medium texture, since this is the medium version. And I know they have the fine and extra coarse. But there it is. Really happy with it. And we'll get this one peeled as well, and then I'll meet you guys back up in the studio. Alright, so as you guys could tell from that video, it was, I don't know if the camera picked it up, but it was very similar sounding to peeling duct tape off. It was a little tough to get around the edges. Other than that, pretty simple to peel the peel ply off. So with the power of editing, here is the green peel plier, the OD green. Now, I don't know if I like the green or the black more. I'm kind of leaning more towards the black scales, since it's, I guess, more tactical. But I also like the green as well. So I guess I like them equally both. Maybe the black just a hair more. Either way, it still looks really, really good. I'm happy with both scales. Obviously these are the thicker ones, so nothing is sticking out past the scales. And again, just looks really clean, simple. Now, as I mentioned on the black scales, I did the same here for the nub. Left a little material so that you don't see it from the side view, and then also for the thumb grooves on the lock bar. Functions perfectly with either set of scales. So I'm always happy when the knife functions properly. And then for the pocket clip, you guys can see where I recessed it, just so it sits nice and flush. Let me know down below what you guys think. If the black one is more your guys' style, or if the OD green is more of what you guys are feeling. And obviously to each their own, but again, the black is really standing out to me for some reason. For the Vaquero blade, I will be doing basically the thicker 3/16 scales in black, and then the thin scales will be the OD green. So basically just reversed on that knife. And then we decided to slightly adjust some of the styling on the finger choils and go more towards the original Voyager. So again, let me know down below what you guys think. And thank you for watching. I really appreciate you guys' support. I'll keep the content coming. And the QSP giveaway knife should be coming up very shortly. Appreciate you guys being very patient with me since that was at 1750 subscribers. Again, I'm getting caught up on orders and I'm finding a little free time to finish that knife. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for watching. And as always, I will see you guys on the next one.